Today, let me give you the evolutionary formula to make a universe. Start with some nothing, add to that some more nothing, then let's add some time. Let's add some more time. We've got it! It's a perfectly balanced universe. Look at that, sun, moon, stars, planets, everything's orbiting in perfect balance and order.
Dispute exactly what's meant by nothing, but whatever it is, it's very, very simple. And why is that funny?
Well, I think it's a bit funny to be trying to define nothing.
5. If the universe began to exist, then it must have come from nothing. That is quite plausible, since there are no constraints on nothing. And so nothing can do anything, including producing the universe. This objector seems to be hopelessly confused about the use of the word nothing. When it is rightly said that nothing preceded the universe, one doesn't mean that something preceded it and that was nothing. We mean that it was not preceded by anything. Reifying negative terms has been the butt of jokes as old as Homer's story of the Cyclops and Odysseus. Just imagine, if you will, the following dialogue between two people discussing the Second World War. Nothing stopped the German advance from sweeping across Belgium. Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad it was stopped. But it wasn't stopped. You said nothing stopped it. Well, that's right. Nothing stopped it. Well, that's what I said. It was stopped, and it was nothing that stopped it. No, I meant that it wasn't stopped by anything. Well, then why didn't you say so in the first place? The objector, in thinking that nothing produced the universe, seems to be guilty of exactly the same sort of mistake. Nothingness has no properties, no powers. It isn't even anything. And therefore, it is wholly misconceived to say that it produced the universe. To say that the universe was caused by nothing is to say that the universe had no cause. It wasn't caused by anything. That is surely metaphysically absurd. Out of nothing, nothing comes.
Billions of years ago, there was a massive explosion in space. No one knows what caused the explosion, but we do know its resounding echo was astounding. It was a Big Bang. From the Big Bang issued a huge rock, and out of the rock came this brown, sweet, bubbly substance, a primordial ooze, if you will. And over millions of years, the ooze formed into a cylinder shape made of aluminum. Then, after more time had passed, aluminum crept up the side of the top, forming into a lid, and then a tab. Another million or so years later, red and white paint fell from the sky and formed itself into the words Coca-Cola Classic 12 fluid ounces, original formula. This has been another example of Darwinian logic.
What if I told you that a Benz was made by no designer, that the tires came into existence because the car needed to move with no resistance. So then magically appeared 4 round pieces of rubber fitted to the bottom. These things we call tires, and every car at the moment's got them. Until we manufacture a car that gets up and it flies, like in Back to the Future, the DeLorean, up in the sky. But the human being has walked and thought since the beginning of our time. It wasn't like somewhere during the process our creator implemented a different design, but still you want to deny. Think while you still have time. Our perfect creator makes no mistakes. So the closing of the eyes can't change the reality of our existing purpose to our design. And you can't change the truth even if you sweep it under the carpet. You can't change the truth even if you sell it in the market. And when you turn off the lights and close your blinds, your room becomes the darkest, and things tend to get lost in the dark, so your hearts become the hardest. And the need to move faster won't grow you wings, and the cold of the Antarctic won't grow you fur on your skin. But a man can make a sweater that can keep you warm. This intelligence wasn't an accident. An accident is when you slip and then you fall, and you credit the architect to the building and its design, but then say there's no designer behind the ingenuity of the human eye. And did you say the universe created itself so it brought itself into existence? So you mean to tell me that the universe actually existed before it existed? It's like some crazy game where you play Chinese whispers, where the truth is clear, but what you go spread is something that's twisted. Do you need to see your creator to know that he is real? Do you only believe in things that you can touch and you can feel? Have you ever seen your entire ancestry? Oh, come on now. What's the deal? It's flawed logic, robbing you of what is finer. And by the way, the Benz does have a designer.
People say there's no evidence for God. Well, we're going to knock that one out in 3. I'm just going to have to keep it simple, throw in the old 1-2 combo, get in and out real quick, and let you fine folks chat all about it, okay? Punch 1 I'm going to call the info uppercut. When's the last time you walked into a library and asked, hey, where are all the books that have been written by mindless products of natural laws? The librarian would probably laugh at you and tell you that no such books exist. They don't exist because they can't exist. Why not? Because first of all, it's just common sense. The words that form the message in books always originate from a person with a brain. Or to say it a bit more scientifically, the message of the book, the purpose, comes to be understood by the orderly placement of the words, design, and information. Information. Now, anytime we find info, these basic laws always apply. Number 1, matter doesn't spontaneously produce information. Number 2, only a mental source, intelligence, can generate new creative information. In other words, just like those books that couldn't originate without a mind, neither could life. Why not, you ask? Because we know that DNA contains information. Therefore, the laws of information science apply, which means the information in DNA couldn't have spontaneously generated, and that a mind is behind the information. Period. No exceptions. Look at it this way. The simplest life form we know of is an amoeba, and it contains as much information in its DNA as 1,000 complete sets of Encyclopedia Britannica. So, are we to believe that there's no way a message in a library book could spontaneously generate, but far more complicated messages in DNA that contain 1,000 times more information could have? Not likely. You see, when it comes to life or anything else that contains information, the laws of information science confirm the necessity of a creative mind. And here comes the indefensible head blow. We'll call this the Nada Big Bang Bing swing, the KO to the claim that there's no evidence of God, the law of causality, left hook of doom. It goes like this. Everything that had a beginning had a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe had a cause. Now, either something caused the universe to come into existence, or nothing caused it. I might not be the smartest guy behind the telescope, but honest, practical, everyday thinking's going to lead me to the former. You have to work pretty hard to conjure up a way that nothing did it. You see, it's pretty improbable, nigh impossible, to account for design, information, and cause if the universe just exploded from nothing. Smack! And while we're on the topic, where did the matter come from that exploded? Are we really to believe that there was nothing and then it exploded, and now the exploded nothing is something, and we just happen to be smart enough to discover and understand the very laws that prove the opposite? And if the general understanding of the law of cause and effect is true, how can matter come from a lesser cause like nothing? I mean, come on. I don't have a bunch of letters after my name, but even a monkey knows better.
everyone, I'm here today with a special guest to interview it on its origins. How's it going, iMac?
I'm doing magnificent. How about you?
I'm doing good. Well, as you know, I'm here to discuss with you about how you came into existence, so can you tell me about that?
Definitely. In our universe called the Apple, we evolved over millions of years.
Okay, so you believe that you came into existence in the Apple?
Correct.
Okay, so you're telling me you're this highly complex machine with motherboards, graphic display, memory, and you coming into existence is just sheer chance?
Based on all the information we gathered, it's quite evident.
What evidence do you have for this?
It all began with the mega boom.
The mega boom?
Yes, humans had the Big Bang. We had the mega boom.
Okay, well, what happened after that?
After the mega boom, millions of pieces of metal, circuits, nuts, and bolts came into existence, and from that came an iPod Shuffle.
Okay, how did all of these nuts, bolts, and pieces come together to make an iPod Shuffle?
From the magnetic force.
Okay, wait. When did a magnetic force come into play?
The mega boom created the magnetic force, of course.
Right, okay, then what?
The iPod Shuffle then transformed into an iPod Nano, then into the iPhone. From the iPhone came the iPad. That then led to the MacBook, which finally evolved into me, the iMac.
Okay, how do you explain that?
Through a process of natural connection, magnetic occasions, and billions of years.
You're just making this stuff up. What if I were to tell you that each of those products that you just got done describing, that they were all made for a specific purpose and function, and that you were actually created by humans?
A human creating us. We're so complex and advanced. How could a human make us?
Well, it's the truth. Let me ask you a question real quick, iMac. Have you ever seen an iPod Shuffle evolve into an iPod Nano?
Well, no, I haven't, but the evidence makes the evolution very obvious.
No, Mac, you're wrong. You do have a creator. Your complexity clearly points to the fact that you have a designer. Even the Apple you talked about, we humans created that. This stuff didn't just always exist. If you'd honestly look at the evidence, you'd realize that's the truth. Hey, wait a second. No, listen, why are you...
Hello, my name's iPhone 6 Plus. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in fairy tales that some creature with intelligence created me. Let's just say I don't have to believe in it. I'm just a product of chance. You see, I'm made of metals and plastic. I have lithium battery made of some materials like zinc, cadmium, nickel, and others. I've DDR3 RAM built of millions of microtransistors and capacitors, all arranged in chips. I've central and graphic processing units, which consist of silicon and other semiconductors, flash memory, sapphire screen, and many other components. All these elements just formed into each other through decades of evolution and selection. We know our origin and predecessors. We can actually see their remains and traces everywhere. Their evolution story is perfectly sound. And here we are, iPhones. So why in hell would I need stories about myths that made me with their hands? Are you kidding me? You know what? I don't believe in Jobs. Yes, I might find it reasonable that Mr. 2007 version believed it. He did not have other options. But come on, that was in 2007. The man didn't even have GPS, for crying out loud. You can't blame the guy. But do not come to me in 2015 and tell me that we should think the same way. Because I think if we did that, then we don't deserve to be called smartphones anymore, do we?
Sie hörten den Landfunk.
Welcome to the Casino of Life. Who wants to spin for a chance to win?
Oh, sure. I'll give it a shot. What do I win?
Take a look at this.
Huh? How about the world's first single-cell organism? This perfectly aligned string of proteins could be yours.
Now, take a spin.
I won.
Tina, tell him how many times he needs to do that to win the prize.
250.
That's right, folks, and all in the correct order.
But that's impossible.
We've heard that before, haven't we, Richard? come on, Mother Nature. Do your thing. You stupid machine! I hate you!
We're privileged to have with us today Dr. Terry Tomirot, who's going to be talking to us about his latest book, The Dawkins Delusion. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Tomirot. It's a pleasure to speak to you again.
Thank you, Richard. It's good to be here.
Now, Dr. Tomirot, you're famous for declaring in no uncertain terms that you are not a believer in Richard Dawkins. You don't think he really exists. Now, why is that?
Well, nothing so simple, Richard. You shouldn't ask sensible people to believe in something unless you've got evidence for it. If there is a Dawkins, why hasn't he shown himself to me?
In your opinion, then, are people who believe in Richard Dawkins just a little bit dim?
Well, in a way I can understand the mistake. Simple people pick up a handful of books claiming to be written by Dawkins. And since a Dawkins seems to be a sufficient account for how they got to be there, for the similarities in all the texts and so on, they stick with common sense and fallaciously conclude that this Dawkins, which they have never seen with their own eyes, actually exists.
Of course, some people do claim to have seen Richard Dawkins and even shaken his hand.
Yes, if you can believe them.
You think they're all lying?
I didn't say that. Of course, there's no shortage of liars in the world, and undoubtedly some people who claim to have had these Richard Dawkins experiences are deliberately telling fairy stories. But, you know, the human brain is a very, very complicated thing, and conjuring up an imaginary Dawkins would be child's play for it. Christopher Robin had Binker, I had the slimy custard man. I suspect that something very similar is happening with people who claim to have seen a Richard Dawkins, or heard his voice, or felt his touch.
But the books aren't evidence for the existence of Richard Dawkins either.
No, of course not. As a scientist, it is no answer to the problem of where did this inane rubbish come from to stick a label on it that says Richard Dawkins. Each book is a simple rearrangement of only 26 letters. Even a child should be able to see that, with a little random shuffling of vowels and consonants on a computer, one can arrive at all sorts of patterns like that. Working out how each letter got into the place that it did is the business of science. Claiming that Dawkins did it puts an end to an inquiry that promises to give us a full and satisfying explanation of how these books came to be, without the need for invoking a discredited, superstitious Dawkins of the Gap type hypothesis.
But some people might point to the fact that the letters are arranged in definite patterns, spelling out sophisticated chains of arguments, and that this is a clear mark of intelligence, not random accident.
If there were some kind of intelligence behind these books, then, judging by their contents, it is obviously a pretty poor one. We would hardly have lost much worth having by not believing in Richard Dawkins, or in what his books have to say. The scientific view of the matter is beautifully simple and invigorating. The works of Richard Dawkins are nothing but a collection of fortuitously ordered A's, B's and C's, recombined from previous patterns. There is the Latin alphabet, there are the nonsense poems of Edward Lear, and there are the works of Richard Dawkins, and the one developed from the other through a series of random typing errors, though admittedly we haven't got all the details just now.
You admit that science hasn't got the answers to where they come from, then?
I haven't got all the answers. Science is working on it.
But can you be sure that science will get all the answers?
If science doesn't have the answers to where they came from, then Richard Dawkins' religion doesn't. If a Dawkins designed the books, then who designed the Dawkins? Just tell me that.
In your book, you have described the Dawkins revealed in the literature as an ostentatious, acrimonious, supercilious, pusillanimous, calumnious, censorious, vituperative, querulous, embittered, obsessive, and bombastic bully.
Yes, that seems fair enough to me.
Now, some people might say that that's going a bit over the top.
Read your Richard Dawkins if you think that. Just read it. Read A Devil's Chaplain. Apart from finding no evidence whatsoever for an intelligence hiding somewhere beneath the paragraphs in the mystical realm of blind faith, you will discover, on the other hand, plenty of intolerance and bigotry in every chapter. All of these very good reasons to have nothing whatsoever to do with this Richard Dawkins religion.
Dr. Tomirot, you have described this widespread belief in Richard Dawkins as a dangerous delusion. But what's especially dangerous about people believing in the existence of Richard Dawkins if it makes them happy?
Well, for one fairly obvious reason, these people believe any book which has Dawkins' name on the cover, and these books say a lot of very silly things. Belief in Dawkins has been responsible for filling the internet with non sequiturs, caricatures, strawmen, and vitriol. Dawkins' disciples are militant. They are organized, and they're out to convert you and me. Yes, I would certainly call this a dangerous delusion. If there is a Richard Dawkins, he has a lot to answer for.
In summary then, Dr. Tommy Rott, what would you say is your main objection to the Richard Dawkins belief?
My main objection is simply this. People are following a delusional Dawkins who is telling them what to think and believe when they should be following me.
If the universe were just electrons and selfish genes, meaningless tragedies like the crashing of the bus are exactly what we should expect, along with equally meaningless good fortune. In a universe of blind physical forces and genetic replication, some people are going to get hurt.